I thought I would come on and give you another tutorial about how to do dry embossing. I know that I've shown videos before about how to do embossing with embossing powder. That's one type of embossing. Another type of embossing is similar to this. It's called dry embossing. And what it is it's where you take paper and you put it between into a folder with images, similar to like this, okay? You're going to put it in a folder like this. You're going to run it through a machine and it's going to create an embossed image. So the image on here is raised up, okay? So if you can see that dimension on there. So today we're going to make a card using dry embossing. Let me go ahead and introduce you to some tools that I use when I do embossing, dry embossing. I have here a Sizzix die cutting and embossing machine. And what this is it is a machine that has rollers in this section and a plate that you feed through the machine. And when you roll it through, based on what you want to do, emboss or die cut, and you pull it out the other side, it's going to come out with an embossed image or a die cut image like these leaves. You can put a little metal die down onto a piece of paper, run it through, and it will cut the image out for you so that you don't have to go around and cut it by hand with scissors. So these machines are usually sold everywhere, like at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. They run about $119, and I highly suggest or recommend getting one. They're very handy to use. They're not as complicated to use, in my opinion. My friend might disagree with me on this, but they're not complicated to use like the Cricut machines are. So this machine here comes in different sizes and different prices. So, find one that will work for you. But this is one that I got about 10 years ago. And I'm going to go ahead and show you what you need to make our card. So we have the die cutting machine. People will ask, do you have to have a die cutting machine to emboss? No, you don't need to have a die cutting machine. You could use a rolling pin and roll it over your embossing folder, but you have to push really hard and it doesn't always come out as deeply embossed as it does with the die cutting machine. So let's go ahead and get our pieces together to make the card. You will need one piece of 8.5 by 5.5 inch paper. I chose red on this one because this is the color I want to use for this card. And you're going to fold that in half to make our card base. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that and set that aside. Okay, so that's our card base. You're going to need 4 pieces of paper, one cut at 5.5 by 4.5 inches in white, 2 of them in blue at that same measurement, and 1 in green at that same measurement. So you'll have 4 separate pieces here. Okay, 5.5 by 4.5. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a piece of the blue paper. We're going to take the Sizzix die cutting and embossing machine. We're going to take our multi-purpose platform, which comes with the machine, and we're going to set it down here on the platform. We're going to turn it to tab 1. Tab 1 is for embossing, and it will give you instructions about how you're going to go about doing this. So you put this into the machine. You take your embossing folder, and this one we're going to use is the one we're going to use. It has little dog paw prints all over it. You're going to open up the folder, and when you do, you'll see a raised side on here. When you touch it, it's raised up and textured. When you touch the other side, it's debossed and it's sunken into, okay? So you're going to go ahead and take your piece of paper, your 5.5 by 4.25 blue piece of paper, put it into the machine, into the folder, close the folder. You're going to take your bottom cutting plate. Mine's been really used, as you can see. You're going to go ahead and put that down there. You're going to take your embossing folder with the paper and you're going to set it down on top of that. And you're going to take your top plate and you're going to put that over the embossing folder. So now you've made a sandwich, basically, with the different plates and the embossing folder. Now you're going to go ahead and take that and you're going to crank it through the machine by turning the handle. It gets a little difficult sometimes. You might have to push down with your hand onto the machine, and you're going to crank it through. I'm going to crank it through the machine. When it comes out the other side, you take off the top plate, and inside you will have an embossed image. Open up the folder. Okay, you're going to go ahead and set the folder aside. You're going to go ahead and take your plates and set them aside, and your machine and set that aside. Okay. And what you're left with is a piece of blue paper that has raised paw prints on one side. That's called embossing, dry embossing. And on the back side, you have images that have been pressed into it that are sunken down. That's called debossing. So depending on what you want to do, because you can do things with deboss, it looks really cool too. You can either do deboss or emboss. So today we're going to go ahead and emboss this card. So we're going to go ahead and take this image that we just embossed. We're going to take our base card. This card is going to sit this direction today, okay? As you can see, it doesn't quite fit. So we're going to take our paper trimmer and we're going to trim this piece of paper down on each side, maybe about 1/8 of an inch, okay? Because we're going to have a little tiny narrow border around the edge of this blue paper. So you're going to go ahead and just cut off, like I said, about 1/8 of an inch, whatever you think will look good. Oops, try that again. Okay. Then you have your image, okay? Looks like my blade might need to be replaced here, but I'm going to go ahead and just sort of trim up the edges, make sure there's no little things hanging off. Okay. Next, you're going to go ahead and take your card base, set it down, flip the embossed paper over so it's the debossed side facing up. You're going to take your glue and put glue around the edges, or in my case, I'm going to go ahead and use my ATG gun. It has double-sided tape in it. You're going to go ahead and put that around. Okay. You're going to go ahead and take this and place it down on the card base. Okay, so that way you get a little, like I said, 1/8 inch border all the way around. Okay. Now, we're going to go ahead and put an image on this. Like I said, it's got the dog paw prints. So I thought it would be fun to take some stickers that I found over at Hobby Lobby. It was a little sheet of stickers that had little googly eyes on these dogs. I just thought they were so funny. And I think it cost me like $2 or something for this whole sheet. And as you can see, I've already used some of them. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take one of the stickers off. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and take this dog here. Okay. And what I did is I took the sticker and I put it down on a piece of white paper. And then I fussy cut around the image so that the blue border that was on the stickers would not be there. Okay, I didn't want that extra blue border on the sticker. So I put it down on, I adhered it down to the piece of white paper, cut around it, and I came up with this image that is now not sticky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this image that I cut out, flip it over. Okay. I'm going to take some adhesive dots. These are foam adhesive dots. And we're going to go ahead and take some of those. They're double-sided. I'm going to peel them off and we're going to stick them all over the dog on the back. Okay. Okay. Then we're going to go ahead and peel off the backing of these foam adhesive. Come on, get off there. Okay. And once we have all the foam, the backing off the adhesive, we're going to go ahead and stick our dog down onto the card base. This is a really quick and easy card. Okay, we're going to go ahead and position him where we want him to be. So let's put him right here. Okay. So now he's sort of raised up off the card and sort of dimensional. Okay. So let's go ahead and move that aside. Next, I thought what we could do is take the piece of green paper And we're going to do a little bit of stamping, okay? So we're going to go ahead and set that aside, and we're going to take a clear acrylic block. We're going to take our stamp set that we're going to use. In this case, I'm using this Hero Arts Animal Messages stamp set. And I think we'll pull out this one that says, I wuff you, since it's a dog theme, okay? And we'll go ahead and pull that one off. And let's take the little bone. There's a little bone image as well. We'll take that out as well. Okay. We're going to go ahead and take the I wuff you and put it onto our acrylic block. Then we're going to take some VersaFine black onyx ink, and we're going to go ahead and stamp this onto our paper. Okay, so we'll go ahead and ink it up. Okay, and then we're going to figure out where we want it. I'd like to put it in the middle of the paper. That way I have a little bit of room on each side to trim if I decide I want to trim. We're going to try and get it nice and straight, and we're going to put it down and stamp. Now, I really like this little bone image here too, so I thought what I'd do is take another acrylic block and stick the bone image on there. And let's see, let's go ahead and stamp it in some black ink, and let's sort of set it at an angle, and we'll go, I don't know, like this. Okay. Now we're going to set those aside. We're going to take a pair of scissors. Even better, instead of doing scissors, let's use our trimmer. That way I can make sure I cut in a straight line, because I have that habit of not cutting in a straight line. We're going to go ahead and line it up in our trimmer, and we're going to trim this piece of green paper that we stamped down to showcase the sentiment. Okay. Now, you can decide how you would like to put this sentiment on the card. If you wanted to, you could lift the dog up and put this underneath and set the dog on top. Let's see how that would look. So we could do something like that if we wanted to. But I think what I will do is I will lay the dog down on the paper. Now I will take a pair of scissors and my paper, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut a straight edge off right about here. And over here on this side, I'm going to sort of mount it like this. I think what I'll do is I will cut it at an angle. That'll just be more interesting that way, right? What I'm going to do is then take either some glue and glue the back, or my adhesive gun, and I'm going to go ahead and put some adhesive on this little strip of paper. And we're going to adhere that to the card base. Okay, so there you are. You have your card front ready to go with your sentiment. Now we're going to go ahead and do the inside. And with the insides, I usually like to keep them pretty simple. You could take your other piece of blue paper that you have, that you cut and set aside, and emboss it again in the embossing machine for you if you want to go on the inside. But I'm going to leave mine plain. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and put it down here on the inside of my card base. And with a pencil, I'm going to eyeball it and figure out where I want the mat to be. Then I'll take my paper cutter and trim this down. Okay. So that will go into the card base, well, like so, with glue or tape. Then we're going to take our white piece. And I'm only using white because when you send a card to somebody, it's nice to have white paper or some lighter color paper to write with, because not everybody has a white pen to write on a dark color. But everybody has a blue or black pen or a pencil that can work on white. So I like to put white in the center of my cards. So we're going to take the white piece of paper, same thing, we're going to lay it down on the blue mat. We're going to take a pencil and we're going to eyeball where we want it to be cut. Take our cutting machine and we're going to cut that down. All right. Good. So let's go ahead and take either some glue or some double-sided adhesive and tape this blue mat down to the inside of the base card. Okay. Once again, we're going to go ahead and open it up. Take our blue mat, place it to the center of the card. Take our white mat, and we're going to put that in on top of the blue. Either glue or double-sided adhesive. Right. Like I said, I just sort of put my paper on top and eyeball it, make sure it looks even, and then press it down. Now, it's up to you if you decide you want to do any other stamping inside. If you wanted to take, for instance, like these little paw prints that are in here, and you could take them and stamp them inside for a little bit of more interest inside your card. You could take it and stamp it on the black ink and stamp it around the card. Let's turn it this way. That way it looks like it's going in a circle. That'll be fun. Okay, so that adds a little bit more interest inside the card, and it carries the theme of the paw prints from the front to the inside of the card. If you have any other sentiment that you want to put on the inside, you could go ahead and stamp another sentiment or any other decoration that you wanted to do. But pretty much, you're now done with the card. Okay, so here you are. You have a card ready to go and mailed. You can, of course, jazz this card up any way you want to. I know it's a nice, plain and simple card, but it is one that can be done pretty quickly. And it gets a lot of excitement from people because they can see these raised images, and it just makes the card more interesting. Anyway, so that's how you do dry embossed cards. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Thank you.